It's Monday, November 11. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. Trade is the focus of Jamaica's partnership with China. That's the word from Prime Minister Andrew Holness. He says the partnership will be governed by a new strategic framework, mostly to encourage more Jamaican goods and services to be exported to the Chinese market. An important aspect of the Prime Minister's official visit to China was to address the opening ceremony of the China International Import Exposition, where JAMPRO and several Jamaican private sector companies showcased their products and services.
It is essential that we take advantage of opportunities presented through international trade and international cooperation. Jamaica believes in a multilateral, rules-based system as necessary for our economic development. And we share your aspirations for a more open, inclusive, balanced, and win-win economic globalization for the common development and prosperity of all countries.
On his official visit, there was a series of bilateral meetings between Mr. Holness and Chinese President Xi Jinping and other Chinese dignitaries in which the terms of the cooperation between the two countries were reviewed. In addition to increasing trade, Jamaica's cooperation with China will also focus on climate change resilience, education, and support.
It is essential that we take advantage of opportunities presented through international trade and international cooperation. Jamaica believes in a multilateral, rules-based system as necessary for our economic development. And we share your aspirations for a more open, inclusive, balanced, and win-win economic globalization for the common development and prosperity of all countries.
Holness says the process has already begun as it relates to the trade with export of live and frozen lobster into China. According to Mr. Holness, there is also great interest and increased demand for Jamaican Blue Mountain coffee and rums. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, says in its latest Food Outlook report that the world's most traded fruit, banana, is in danger of becoming scarcer amid rising prices as a fungal strain spreads across banana plantations in the region and Asia. The Food Outlook assesses the hypothetical market risks posed by the tropical race 4, that's the TR4 disease on bananas, a vital cash crop threatened by the pathogen, which infects roots and stems. It said that fungus had triggered billions of dollars in losses. The FAO says bananas account for 1/4 of daily caloric intake for people in rural areas of some countries, and in some cases account for 75% of small farmers' total income. Last month, in a renewed effort to help protect banana crops in Latin America and the Caribbean, the FAO launched an emergency project to curb major plant losses threatened by the fungal disease. Jamaicans are being urged to consume more locally produced food to aid in reducing the country's high importation bill, which stood at just over $900 million in 2018. The renewed call comes from Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of Industry, Agriculture, Fisheries and Commerce, Monique Gibb. She says eating Jamaican has many advantages, pointing out that one of the most critical is the potential impact this can have on the economy. Gibbs was speaking at the launch of the 2019 Eat Jamaican Month at the Mega Mart Wholesale Club on Upper Waterloo Road in St. Andrew. She noted that every dollar spent on non-Jamaican products, we lose about 2 to 4 times the development impact that would be gained from spending the same dollar on locally made products. This year marks the 16th anniversary of the Eat Jamaican campaign that was launched by the Jamaica Agricultural Society in collaboration with the Agriculture Ministry in 2003. On November 14, the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, CPFSA, will host the first in a series of child protection forums at the Montego Bay Cultural Center, Sam Sharp Square, from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. The initiative forms part of the agency's efforts to continue its child protection campaign under the theme, Every Child Deserves Protection. Speaking with JIS Communications Manager at the CPFSA, Rochelle Dixon, said the aim is to educate the public about the rights of children and provide timely child protection tips. The event will feature presentations from the representatives of the CPFSA, Jamaica Constabulary Force, Family Court, and the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and much more. Members of the public are invited to attend. Government Senator Morrison is pushing for laws with more teeth to decrease incidents of dogs attacking people. During Friday's sitting of the Senate, she moved a motion calling for legislative change. In moving the motion, Senator Morrison pointed to recent dog attacks and stated that greater vigilance by owners could reduce them.
And whereas the provisions of the 1877 Dogs Liability for Injuries by Act have proven insufficient to encourage such vigilance and discourage neglect, be it resolved that the government move with urgency to amend the legislation to reflect more effective penalties, including criminal prosecution for negligence on the part of dog owners, and be it further resolved that consideration be given by the government for legislation to be enacted for the regulation of dog ownership, such as the registration and grading of dogs, in particular with respect for known aggressive breeds.
Senator Morrison stated that the 1877 legislation dealing with dog attacks has proven insufficient in discouraging neglect by owners. She also noted that some victims might not be able to afford the cost to recover damages through a lawsuit. The issue has been in the public domain since 4 pit bulls carried out a vicious attack on a teacher in Coopers Hill, St. Andrew in September. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has offered condolences to the immediate and extended family of Douglas Vaz, the former Minister of Industry and Commerce who served in the cabinet during the 1980s. Vaz died on November 10 in his sleep. He was 83 years old. Mr. Vaz was a Member of Parliament for North Central St. Andrew from 1980 to 1989, and later, due to changes in the constituency boundaries, moved to representing St. Andrew Northeastern for the Jamaica Labour Party, the JLP. He continued to represent the JLP in that constituency until 1993. According to the Prime Minister, Mr. Vaz is remembered as a hard worker, a team player, and a mentor to many young business and political enthusiasts. Former Chief Justice of Jamaica, Sir Edward Zacca, died Monday morning after a long illness. He was 88. He served as president of the Court of Appeal of the Bahamas from March 2000 to July 2001. On January 2, 1985, he was sworn in as Chief Justice of Jamaica by Governor-General Sir Florizel Glaspole. Sir Edward is survived by his wife, Hope Margaret, and his children, Christopher and Karen. The People's National Party is mourning the passing of former Member of Parliament for Trelawney North, Wendell Bulbul Stewart, who died in his home Sunday morning. The PNP said the Stewart was a true servant of the people who dedicated his life to advocating for social and political changes to improve the life experience for those he served as Member of Parliament. Mr. Stewart returned from the United States in the late 1990s to represent the PNP in 1997 general elections. He succeeded in representing in the constituency of Trelawney Northern as its parliamentary representative from 1997 to 2002, succeeding PNP veteran Desmond Leckie. The US dollar on Friday, November 8, ended trading at Jamaican $141.62, down by 27 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily foreign exchange trading summary. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $108.10, down from $108.34. while the British pound sterling ended trading at $181.65, down from $182.75. In regional news, the government of the Cayman Islands has been ordered to establish a marriage equivalent for same-sex couples. In a ruling handed down last Thursday, the Court of Appeals in that country overturned a previous ruling that legalized same-sex unions, but it ordered the government to immediately establish civil partnerships. The court also cautioned that if the government failed to implement these unions, then the United Kingdom would intervene. Speaking in the Legislative Assembly on Friday, Premier Alden McLaughlin responded to the court's decision.
We have always said that it was critical that the country had the benefit of clarification on those very important constitutional issues. The Court of Appeal judgment does clarify that, and I believe this is a significant ruling. That said, Mr. Speaker, while I, and I suspect that all of us in this House, do appreciate the ruling, we should be mindful that it comes with a declaration by the Court that this legislature should act expeditiously in ensuring that same-sex couples have legal protection under a law that provides the, quote, functional equivalent to marriage, unquote. Mr. Speaker, I do expect that this Honourable House will indeed consider this matter expeditiously, but we cannot do so hastily. Given that we have before us a 2-year budget to get through, as well as a referendum, I do not see this Honourable House turning their attention to this issue before early next year.
The Premier said he was pleased that the appeals court agreed with his government that the original ruling of Chief Justice Andrew Smelly created too much ambiguity regarding the Constitution.
I do urge members to read and carefully consider the judgment and the declaration. It is clear to me that if this legislature does not provide the legal framework that provides the protections for same-sex couples in a form that is acceptable to all Caymanians, then undoubtedly we will end up with the UK levying upon us protections that suit them rather than us. I believe the responsible thing for this House to do is to face up to this issue and take its own decision. We have rightly complained that on occasion the UK has overreached by interfering in matters that should be decided by Caymanians. By the same token, we cannot abdicate responsibility for taking the hard decisions when they are staring us in the face.
Guyana's opposition leader Brat Jagdeo is threatening more protests if President David Granger doesn't dissolve Parliament soon ahead of the March 2020 elections. He was speaking at his weekly press conference last Thursday. The details in this News Source Guyana report.
The opposition leader said the dissolution of Parliament must take place soon.
He has to dissolve Parliament. He has to issue a proclamation. Let him delay that and we resume the protests, because that's part of the holding of elections or the dissolution of Parliament. And so I'm making it clear to him, if he thinks he's going to hang on there.
Mr. Jagdeo brushed aside the president's recent statement that he's keeping the Parliament open right now, just in case there might be the need for emergency funding. Jagdeo said emergency funding could be accessed through the contingency fund, and the president ought to be aware of that.
But Parliament doesn't have to exist to have access to the contingency fund. And in any case, he can't pass a budget, so the 112 provisions would kick in next year.
President Granger has already issued a proclamation for the 2nd of March 2020 elections.
Still in Guyana, a new political party with which President David Granger was in discussion with for a possible collaboration has now decided to go it alone. At a press conference last week, Liberty and Justice Party's Lennox Schumann made his party's position clear. Newsroom Guyana's Nigel Collymore was there and filed this report.
After the news broke of the party in talks with the governing APNU coalition, its leader Lennox Schumann had said that he was meeting all parties. But on Thursday, he confirmed that there are no plans to officially join forces with other parties leading up to the 2020 election.
I want to ensure that we are very clear on what it is we do. At the launch of this party in January of 2019, we said that we are open to communications with everyone. And we had set out to engage in dialogue with all parties. We had sent out formal notification to all parties to engage in a dialogue, because we believe that is the only way to move Guyana forward. And as such, we have met with ANOG, we've met with FedUp, we've met with TCI, we've met with APNU, and we have not met with the PPP. But there are some other small players that we would have met with.
Schuman stated that the LJP constitution was set up to promote the establishment of an independent party that seeks to foster a balanced approach to nation building.
Last night we had a motion carried in line with Article 4.1 of the Liberty and Justice Party's constitution that states that we are not going to coalesce with any political party going into this election unless the national security or national interest of this country demands it. At this point, we are of the firm belief that the country is in need of balance.
The party leader made note of the fact that the LJP recognizes the strong following of both the APNO-AFC coalition and the People's Progressive Party, but stated that the LJP's strength rests in their ability to provide the balance necessary to take Guyana forward.
We recognize and respect that the APNU-AFC has a massive following, and we have to respect that they are going to look out for their followings or their party and people's interests. And we also have to respect and recognize that the People's Progressive Party also represent a very large mass, and they have a responsibility to their membership. And at this point, the Liberty and Justice Party represents what we call a balance in this country. And along those lines, we are going to be heading into the elections of 2020 as the Liberty and Justice Party, not as an appendage of any party, not in coalition with any other party.
In sports, former coach Glendon Admiral Bailey has returned to Tivoli Gardens Football Club as technical director. Bailey, who led Tivoli Gardens to 2 Red Stripe Premier League titles, the last in 2011, will look to help move Tivoli Gardens away from the relegation zone. They are currently in 10th spot with 8 points, one above bottom-packed teams Vere United and the University of the West Indies, both with 7 points. And that's the news on PBCJ. Thanks for watching.